Hello and welcome to Pratik Chess Videos.
Hey Tessens, today we are going to see a game between, who do we have here? Well, today is our game between Alexander Chernin and Jerome van der Wiel. These two players were a very, they posed a very dynamic fight to each other in this game, but uh, what is the objective of this game? This objective of this game is to get the pieces out. One of the main objectives in the opening is to bring the pieces into play. In the initial position, all the pieces are in the back rank, but it is far from contact with the enemy. The knights, which are short range, are particularly ineffective. And so, one of the main priorities is to advance them into better positions. Early piece development is so crucial that failure to handle it effectively can result in the battle being lost while most of the army is still in bed. This is Black's fate in this game. All the decisive action takes place while his queenside pieces stand unmoved and unable to participate in the following struggle. Game started with knight f3, d6, g3, e5, slightly not so popular opening, but still bishop g2. And now, well, now what? Now after bishop to g2, it's kind of unclear, but here black played f5. This is not a mistake, but here f5 has the idea. Yeah, it is. It's not a mistake, but it's black's first third pawn move in a row. So, well, that can be bad to build an over pawn structure, but still it kind of works. So, well, wait a minute. Here we go. Wait, what? Alright, so yeah, that kind of doesn't work, but still it does. You see now after f5, well, this is the first third pawn move in the opening, but still it kind of works because somehow we pull off this e4 advance followed by knight f6 and we get some space, but it's not the ideal move you would like to play in a position. So now c4, white is here not only bringing the pawn into play but also controlling the d5 square, which white will use, which white will more control better by the move knight c3, and then white will amass control over the light squares in the center. Now knight f6, and now what? So now knight f6. Here black contests the white's cover of the d5 square, and he himself is covering it. And sometime after knight c6, black can plan of playing d5. So now, well, now instead of playing knight to c3, which is the most common move here, he played b4. Well, now b4, this is a type of an interesting move. Yeah, given the fact that, well, here this is an interesting move because see now this is just I think this is over, and this is an ambitious and slightly provocative move which we play b4, but there's a psychological element attached to it. a, a direct attacking player as Van der Wiel is, he will try to punish this not as a good move and be provocated. Yeah, and that's what actually happened in the game. In the game, he played e4. That's an inaccuracy right there. Alright, so e4. Now Van Valley is dully provoked, and now the consequences are gonna be bad. Knight d4, d5, and now c into d5. This d5 was the plan of e4 pawn push. So now c into d5, knight into d5, queen into d5. Then white has more than one way to mate this, but there are two variations. One is the simple knight c2 and then followed by knight c3. Another one is the more complicated bishop b2, bishop into b4, queen a4, check. Yeah, now bishop d7, queen into b4, c5, and now knight c3, good move, c into b4, knight into d5, knight into d5, f3, and now and this is black loses his one pawn, extra pawn. For example, after knight f6, f into e4, f into e4, knight c2. Why bishop b5 actually? Not bishop to b5. After knight c2, now it's just you lose this pawn. And here bishop to c6, but now bishop into f6, g into f6, knight into b4. And now white here is better. I mean, slightly better. So now here in the game, wait a minute. Yeah, here in the game, after knight into d5, here it was played. Well, now it's really unclear what to do because our pawn is at double attack by the bishop and the knight. But here white simply plays b5. And now knight to f4. Knight to f4, this is a little piece of tactics, but black has nothing better to do here. So now g into f4, queen into d4. Now queen into a1 is hanging, but now comes knight c3, protecting the rook while developing a piece. Bishop to c5. This is a mistake. This might threaten mate in 1 by queen into f2. But here we meet it with e3, and now suddenly the bishop is also sometimes tactically vulnerable after later rook c1, queen c2. Yeah. So now after e3, queen c4 was played. This is a dubious move. Uh, Designed to prevent castling, but still we will get into tempo by rook c1 and also queen c2 or queen b3. So now after e3, queen to c4. Well, uh, now there are two. Now there are two reasons why white's position is better. Firstly, that f4 pawn is also controlling e5 and helping white achieve a better control over this diagonal. And secondly, after g into f4 was played, this g file will be open. Here they After which here both of the pieces can pressure on g, and after bishop f1 moves, the rook will work in tandem with the bishop if the king castles king side, and it has to actually. So e3, queen c4, and now bishop to b2, obvious move, short castle, and now rook to g1, good move. Now idea of rook to g1 here is to play bishop to f1 and then move the knight somewhere. It's just to pressure on this here, and that would be bad. Man, that would be bad. So now rook to f7. Rook to f7 idea is to protect g7. But now comes rook to c1, good move. Rook to c1 idea here is to play here is to pressure here, and the threat here is to play knight into e4, and then you lose your c5 bishop. So now, well, in the game it was played queen to b4, queen e6 loses here, queen e6 loses to knight into e4, f into e4, rook into c5. Queen to b4 was played in the game. But now comes queen to c2, firstly defending the b2 bishop, and now knight to d5 is the threat. Now bishop to d6, protecting the c7 pawn, also moving away from this dangerous file. But yeah, but now here comes knight to d5. The final attack begins. Now queen into b5. Uh, well, now after queen into b5 comes knight to f6 check. Oopsies, that was not good. Here, queen into b5 comes knight to f6 check, king to h8 forced. If g into f6, then bishop to f1 check, and then you lose your queen. So that's why king to h8. But now comes now comes the move. Bishop to f1. We attack here on b5, and now queen into b2. Queen into b2 here. Idea is nothing. We just surrender the queen. Black here surrenders the queen by desperation because there's nothing black can do. So black just surrenders the queen for the very, very powerful bishop on b2. But seriously, after queen into b2, rook into f6, you have two minor pieces and a pawn, which might be compensation. But now you should pause the video and think, what should we play? Well, with every pro there's a con, and here comes the amazing move queen into f6. Well, nice move. So now g into f6 idea is that bishop to c4. Now rook to g8, and it may seem like black has four pieces while we have one. Yeah, that means that two rooks versus four pieces and one. But seriously, black has to surrender a piece now. If yeah, black has three pieces actually. We have one, so that means black has a bishop and a knight versus a rook. But now black has to surrender a piece because of the threat of rook to g8. So now bishop to e6, bishop into e6, knight a6, and now comes bishop into f5. Well, not really. Firstly, white plays king to e2. Well, now now with every support, the c5 f5 pawn cannot be saved. But now knight to c5, black tries at least to save the e4 pawn. But now bishop into f5 just. Rook to d8, and now rook to g3. And now black resigns because of the threat of rook to h3. An amazing game by Alexander Chernin. The lessons here are four lessons. Do not make too many pawn moves in the opening, as he made 5 pawn moves in the first 8 moves. Do not expose your queen to harassment by the enemy pieces in the opening. That is very important. He developed his queen early, he played the queen into d4, queen c4. The queen was repeatedly harassed. Then third, do not repeatedly move the same piece in the opening. He moved the queen like twice, and he moved the knight twice. Then there were 5 pawn moves, and so he repeatedly moves some pieces. And now fourth, weaknesses are only relevant if they can be exploited. Like here, white didn't castle, and white had these double pawns, but the double pawns actually supported white instead of not doing him. So now this was the game. All right. I hope you like this video and don't forget to click the subscribe button and the bell icon. Thank you.